Welcome back to another episode of Gumball Love. I am starting with circus music. You know why? Because that is online dating, and I am officially done for life. I can't tell you how great it feels. Do you want some more circus music? This is what online dating is. It's a joke. I tried Match.com, I tried Elite Singles, I tried Inner Circle, and I know many of you have tried Bumble and Tinder and all of the crazy apps out there. And it's just, I feel like, remember if you followed me long enough, Periscope was Twitter's live broadcasting engine, and it was a huge deal to be broadcasting live. I remember telling people, this person is actually live right now, and they're just broadcasting from their phone. And people looked at me just 3 years ago and they were like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? So it was just this huge opportunity to spread your message and build your brand. But over time, at about a year and a half in, there were so many trolls that it just made giving your broadcast as a content creator really difficult, because you were just going, you were delivering your message, but there were just all these messages like show your boobs and you're ugly and you're fat, and it was just like those kinds of messages over and over and over again. And then you'd actually have real people that were trying to listen, but it just seemed like it got harder and harder to reach those people. And I hadn't been online dating for quite a while, maybe like 2 to 3 years. And I could not believe how much I had grown and changed since I had been on last. And at first it was like, okay, this is kind of fun and exciting. I know how to filter all of these guys out. But then I started, especially in the last 30 days, I really started to see new patterns that I've never talked to you guys about before. And I want to share those with you, because what I discovered is number one, let's just talk about all of the photos that you have to look at and the sad, weird expressions on these men's faces. I mean, it's like 95% are these mopey, like blank, kind of staring into this, like selfie lens, or the camera lens. Sorry, I'm getting distracted as someone's texting me. I'm going to shut this phone off. But it's like, you can just see the dysfunction. You can just see the despair. You can see the loneliness. You can see the insecurity, even in the photos. And that was sort of jarring to me. And I'm glad it was jarring, because that's what we want. We want these things to look really gross to us. Where before I wasn't able to pick up on those kinds of things, or I would be like, well, maybe they just don't take good pictures. But when you take a photo and you put it online, you need to be able to see how you are representing yourself. And the pictures that these guys would choose, it's astounding. I literally cannot believe that these photos are the ones that they're choosing for finding dates. And even the ones that just want to have sex, it's like, okay, so this is you wanting to have sex. Like, it's just crazy. So I think there's that, and it's funny at first, and it's sort of entertaining. And then you're looking at hundreds of these photos, and then you're getting emails with these messages that have like gross, some of them aren't outright gross, but it just feels slimy, because, or they'll say, good morning, beautiful. Oh my gosh. Like, if I get one more good morning, beautiful, I'm going to gag. Like, good morning, gorgeous. Good morning, beautiful. Hi, how was your day? Hey, how was your day? How's your day going? How was your weekend going? It's like, stop it. I mean, I was like, no, I knew I was getting to the end. I was like, I will not tell anyone how my weekend's going. Stop asking me how my day is, because it's just the same small talk questions over and over and over again. So that's taxing on you, number one, because you're trying to evaluate each one. But just the sheer volume of them, especially when you're the new person and you first log in, like your first week, it was just like, oh my God. I mean, I'm in New York City, so there's just such a heavy population. But even in New York, you guys, even in New York, you get through it. And then pretty soon you're seeing the same people again. Can you believe it? In Manhattan, you're seeing the same people. In fact, I actually met a guy in real life 2 years ago, and I just saw him on Match.com today. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm seeing this dude. So I'm just kind of going through all these things. So 1, you're seeing the gross pictures. 2, even if they're not gross, you're just having to like evaluate all this stuff. And then you're looking at all this information like height and religion and political affiliation and hobbies and interests and trying to gauge personality. It's a lot of stuff to do. And then there's this extra pressure on it because you're like, oh, maybe this could be somebody I could meet, maybe. And then you're like, then you're judging the pictures. Could I be attracted to them? Could I not be attracted to them? Could I imagine myself? And then you're like having all these futuristic thoughts about somebody you may never meet. They may never email you again. So then there's that. So then there's the ones that you're like, okay, I am actually interested, and maybe I would meet them for coffee or a drink. Like, okay, let's give this a shot. Let me respond. And so you do. And then they don't respond back. It's like, well, what was that for? So then it's just like, you feel like you were rejected when they were the one that pursued you. And then there's the ones that keep texting every day. Hey, but they don't ask you out. How you doing? How's your day going? What you up to? What you getting into today? And so, you're trying not to be a total a-hole. So you're like, you go along with it because you're a nice person. And so, okay, we'll talk for 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. And then you're like, why am I talking to JB385 for that long? I don't even know if this is a real person, or I don't even know if the guy in the picture is the one I'm even talking to. And isn't it funny how we've come so far in technology, but yet we're still looking at still photos for online dating. Match.com did create this like Instagram stories piece, but no one used it. And I thought about using it, but I didn't get that far. So anyway, at least it's making progress, because if people showed themselves on video and you could actually see them talking and walking and interacting, that would really help. But people think they're going to be rejected, so they don't want to give you too much information. I mean, it's just endless. So then you get to the guys that, you actually like and you're having good conversations with, but they will not ask you out. So I just want to talk about that guy for a second, because this is probably 99.9% of these guys. They have a low self-esteem, and they do not have the confidence to meet you in person. The texting conversation is as far as they're going to take it, because the social anxiety that a lot of these guys have, this is where I'm really feeling like there's the patterns of social anxiety. I actually had 2 guys admit it to me. One asked me, please don't dress up. You're so beautiful. And, I couldn't take it. Can you please dress down? And I just canceled it immediately, because I thought, oh my gosh, you're asking me to be somebody else to make you more comfortable in your own insecurity. And so if there's one thing I've learned through this whole process of growing myself, and sadly I've had to learn all of these things the hard way. I feel like God has given me this mission, and I'm telling you what, in the last 3 months I've been going through this, it's really beat me up. Like I'm not quite myself, and I'm really excited to have let this go today so that I can kind of get myself back to feeling 100% normal. Because what I was noticing is that all of these guys with low self-esteem and these kinds of conversations, these weird, gross sexual innuendos, it's all a lot of perverted energy, creepy energy, low vibe, these people aren't productive. They're not positive. They're not the kind of people you want to surround yourself by any means, yet you are surrounded by them in online dating. And essentially you have an open inbox for any dude to just say anything to you. And as I have worked so hard to protect my energy and create a space that I can grow, I started to see how this was detrimental to my progress. In fact, I just couldn't afford to allow this to be in my life anymore because it was costing too much, if that makes sense. Like, I believe that energy is almost like, well, I don't think it's almost, I believe that it is a commodity, and we only have a certain amount every day. And when we open it's almost like you're in a boat and you have a plug at the bottom and you just give it a little bit of, if you pull that out or you push it a little bit, you can expose one little tiny hole. And then all of a sudden you've got water in your boat. And then you have a problem that you have to fix, or you're constantly, think of if you had some kind of a plug in the boat and if you could move it in a certain way, it would block the water. And it kind of feels like that's what we're doing with online dating. We're sort of like, we're trying to manipulate it, but every time we interact, a little bit more water gets into the boat. And then it just starts to feel like, okay, now my feet are in water. And yes, I'm still floating and I'm fine, but this isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. And then you're up to your knees in water, and then pretty soon your boat is sinking and you've got to like flip it over and fix the hole and then start over. It's like, it's just, you have that feeling of when you first start, you have enthusiasm and it's fun, but when you have the water in the boat feeling, that's when it starts to bleed over and affect too much of your life and too much of your energy. And I think that in the past, I would have really internalized this as there's something wrong with me. I just can't meet the right people. I don't know. But I can tell you that, oh my gosh, I'm just looking at these guys and I see it so clearly. They're not in any way, shape, or form ready for a relationship, a commitment, a marriage. They are a mess. They are sending disgusting messages. They don't know how to even communicate in a basic, hi, how are you? And I picture these guys, like, I know they have corporate jobs, a lot of them do, and they send emails every single day. Yet when it comes to sending a message to a woman for a date or to start a conversation, this immaturity rises up and this insecurity. And then suddenly they're unable to use those same professional skills and decency that they would in their job. And this little boy comes out and he says, like, how, letter R, you, letter U, question mark, and then weird emojis and crazy conversation that nobody would ever have in person at the first point. But it feels like, it doesn't feel like it is. Online, people feel like they can just say whatever they want because, what is it called? Not the keyboard cowboy, but something like that, where, you read the comments of any Facebook video and it's like, you could watch the cutest kitten video and then somebody has got to say something negative, and there's just like trolls and there's all this garbage that pops up. And so, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, I was thinking how I would have typically gotten discouraged in like, there must be something wrong with me, or why can't I meet anybody, or why am I not attracting? And I actually started to look at the guys that were on Match.com that I thought, man, these seem like decent guys. Well, now you have the ability to see if anyone's reading their messages. And the ones that looked legitimate to me or looked like really good candidates, they didn't even read messages. So I'm wondering if they don't have people that are just on there to make their site look good and keep it interesting, but the messages aren't really getting checked. And so people you think are, rejecting you, they may even be models. I actually thought of that because I read a bio of someone and it was the exact same bio of somebody else. And I know they have a service where they can write your profile for you. And so maybe it was a form, but it just made me really suspicious of that. Like, okay, is this guy even real? Is he even on here? Because when I look at the majority, it was just troll looking guy after troll looking guy, gym selfies that are so close to the camera, and their eyes are just troubled, pain, insecure. A lot of guys were even doing duck faces. I mean, it's like, what is happening? And, we look at this and we think, what is happening to men? But I don't think this is like the representation of all men. I think that online dating attracts socially, like people that have massive social anxiety, that have no intention of ever meeting you in person, or they have personality disorders, or they are not who they say they are. It attracts people that want to hide. That's really what it comes down to, because there are people with personality disorders that can function in relationships. But I have personally dated a couple of guys that had major social anxiety, and it is a disorder that I cannot function with in a relationship, because I am so much of a caregiver that if somebody's uncomfortable around me in a social environment, I can't stand it, and I have to do what it takes to make them comfortable. And so I'm always worried about it. So someone that has social anxiety just makes me always feel like I'm in charge of making everything comfortable, and then it just doesn't work. So that said, the whole online dating space attracts, or even really, I guess the right word is attracts, but it's like, this is where you go if you want to talk to girls, but you don't want to ask them out on dates, and you just want to have fun and send texts and get attention, get the gumballs, right? Because they can get all their gumballs via text message and take advantage of this dating website and pay $30 a month, $1 a day, and they can send messages and get emails from women and play these little games, but they actually don't have the confidence to meet you in person and really make it a real relationship. So as I looked at all of this, I just said, I tried 3 different ones, which was probably a mistake because it was just like triple the work, but I wanted to see what each one was like, just because I help you guys too, and we're in this together, right? I'm looking for myself, and as I learn and go through something, then I come back and I teach it to you. And so, but this experience was just, I'd met a few guys in person and went on several dates, like multiple dates, and just most were first dates, handful of second dates. And it just was so clear. I mean, almost within seconds of first dates, I was just immediately, it was a no. And I will tell you, as a side note, I just met a guy this past weekend, and it was an immediate no when I met him. And he interrupted me every time I start talking. He thought he was funny and he wasn't. And I was looking at the menu, and he was like, "You got to order rosé. Come on, it's a rosé day." And I was just like, okay, but he was just really pushy about rosé. And it was just like one of those things where he didn't even give me a chance to look at the menu and say, "Hey, what would you like?" It was just like he made up in his mind what he thought I should have. And I was just like, "Oh, okay, it sounds good. I'll have rosé." But he was just like that kind of guy throughout the whole one glass. And I just sat there and I thought, I don't have to sit here with him any longer. Because he was like, "Hey, you want to have a second round?" And I said, "You know what? Actually, I've got to get going." So, and then he was like, "Well, you can go ahead and go." And I said, "Well, I don't want to leave you here just to pay the bills. So I can sit here and wait with you for sure." And I mean, he just knew, but it was just like, you're rude, you're interrupting, you're constantly, he would change the subject too, back to him. And it was like, yeah, gumball guy. I will have barely one glass, and I know I'll never see him again. And that's okay. It is okay to get up and leave. You don't owe this guy a second drink. I look at it this way. If I'm enjoying myself, then sure, I'll have a second glass of rosé. But if I don't want to waste the calories and the time, and I'm not enjoying the conversation, I don't owe this guy. If he wants to pick up the tab, great. If I offer and he lets me pay, great. Like in those situations, I'm happy to pay my own just because I want to get out of the situation and I don't really care about the money. I just want to be done. So that's another thing too, that when I used to do this before, I would think I owed them a dinner and I would think I had to sit there and like really evaluate it. And I just know, like we know when we're in or we're out, right? We don't have to labor over the decision. It's pretty simple. We pretty much know immediately if we're interested in somebody. So yeah, like as I went on these dates and met these guys, what the conclusion I've come to is, as we choose to evolve as people and we achieve higher levels of living and we're around people that are vibrating at that high frequency. I mean, I'm listening to positive podcasts and going to meetups with powerful women, and I'm in the corporate world in my full-time job, and we're having conversations about complex software solutions and integrations, and all of a sudden my whole level of interaction goes to this gutter level. It's like, why am I down here talking to these people? It just felt like a major downshift. And there's a certain part of you that will say, well, this is just part of the online dating world. I mean, I get that. But I don't think that we need to expect ourselves to deal with that much. It's too much. For me, it's too much. Now, had I just done 30 days, that probably would have been a better option. Like if I were to do it again, I would just do 1 month and that's it. I would not. 3 months was way too long. But I made a fitness goal. I was like, all right, I'm going to lose 40 pounds, which I did. I thought, okay, I'm going to feel better. It'll be summertime. I'll go on dates. It's fun. And I did have fun on some dates. But I have to say that my conclusion is that, actually my assistant even said this. She goes, she's very young and already married. And she said, I can't imagine meeting somebody online. And, here she's like 23. And I said, why can't you imagine it? I mean, this should be so common for you. And she said, it just seems so random. She goes, I just feel like you're so much more likely to meet somebody that you have common interests with. And so it's like, okay, that's not a news flash, but with the way she said it, I was thinking, this is so random. This is like trying to use a lottery system. Like we're in these, however big your city is, you're taking a whole city and you're kind of like taking all the men and shaking them and putting them in this, and then whatever kind of lands. And then you're like, okay, out of all these guys, different backgrounds, beliefs, and ideas and values and character, and you're trying to like go through this maze to find one that could potentially work. Now, I know this works because people get married and online dating is successful. But I feel like if you're listening to this podcast, you are not the average person, because I know that my content is very difficult to hear, especially if you're with a gumball guy. I have dealt with gumball guys over the past couple of years, and even my own content will bother me if I am struggling with a guy and I'm not wanting to believe he's a gumball guy, but I know that he is. It's like my own content will like really irritate me because it's just a big truth punch in the face. And so, and I forgot where I was going with that. Dang it. But a big truth punch in the face. Well, where was I going with this? Well, anyway, like you feel like there's just, this struggle, right? And so as you're going through the struggle, I know I was thinking about, you're struggling to do all this filtering, but really where we should be is going to functions. And I know it's just like, oh my God, what freaking function, Melissa? Like, I don't even know what you're going to, You're going to tell me to go to some what? Like I already feel it. Like, what is it? So I'm going to tell you my plan. Now, I know I live in New York City, and if you don't live in New York or you don't live in a bigger city, then you're going to have to be more creative. But I know that you could be. So, okay, I'll just pretend like I'm back in Nebraska. If I was back in Nebraska, I would do actually a few things that I'm already going to do here. One, I love the planetarium. So I love space and just the whole idea, like understanding space, the size, dark matter, planets, just how it all works. It's fascinating to me. So I actually did go to the planetarium in Nebraska. It was very small, but I went because it was one of the first things I did. But it's just like something I'm drawn to. The other thing I was drawn to was ballroom dancing, and that's now in my life as a fixture 3 times a week, or almost every day because I practice every day. And so that was just like a random idea that I thought maybe I could try that because I felt drawn to it. I feel drawn to, like, I want to understand art, and I'm not like, hey, I want to go to the museum and really explore some art, but I know that I'm going to be interested in some art. I just haven't found what it is that I specifically like. So I'm going to go explore and figure out the kind of things that spark my interest that I don't even know of or I'm not even aware of. So I'm going to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, so you could go and choose your museum and find things that are going on, like talks or maybe a tour of some kind. And it could be the most boring freaking thing you've ever gone to, or you could be like, oh my God, that was like really interesting. And I'm not going to meet men. It's like I want to be around people that are like-minded. So I would go to network and meet other interesting people and learn something that I've always wanted to learn. And I really believe that this is where we're going to meet the right person eventually. I just think we need to create, and I need to do a better job of creating a life, because my life of my networking has been mostly with women entrepreneurs, which is great. And I still do that. I mean, I was just at Kara Awaleba's book launch party. I'm going to a women's networking event tonight. My very good friend who I met at a conference, she's like, I have all these amazing friends and I want to get everybody together. So we're all meeting for dinner tonight. And, it just keeps you out and keeps you energized. And already I cut that cord to the online dating websites, and I can already feel my energy increasing, because now I can't go to my phone and click on that app and see any gross picture of a guy looking back at me and feeling his energy. Now I'm focused on, okay, I'm doing this podcast. I'm wrapping up my workday. I'm going to get ready to go. And then I'm going to head out. I'm going to be in the city. And then I'm going to meet some amazing women for dinner. And then I'm going to come home and I'm not going to be checking those dating apps. And I'm going to start bringing my own like authentic, true Melissa energy back. Because I have to say, I was really starting to notice a difference, and I feel it right now, and it's bothering me. Like, wow, and I have to say, I really think of you when this happens, because I feel a sense of responsibility to lead by example. And sometimes I fail. I have failed many times in this process because I'm human. Have been guys that have gotten my attention that have caught me by surprise. And sort of derailed me or distracted me, and just kind of, it happens. And I caught myself, I was just telling my sister, when this happens to me, it's a much shorter process for me because I see it much faster than I ever used to, but there's still a process. And I feel guilty, like, oh, I'm teaching Gumball Love, I should know better. But sometimes this is really hard to see. And sometimes these people come out of nowhere or they just exhibit wonderful personality signs. And you would never imagine they were a gumball person. Then all of a sudden they do something, and then it's like that domino effect where you see it becomes really obvious to you that, they're a gumball person or they're narcissistic, because sometimes that narcissist can be so charming and sweet, and they really know how to get to know you and like manipulate you, and they know how to get to know you in a way that makes you feel like you're being seen, but it's actually part of their tactic to, as they make you feel seen and heard, they're in those moments, they really are seeing you and hearing you, but they're just gathering information. They're not really actually connecting with you. And so when that person sort of turns on you, or you see them in a different light, or you see the veil come off, the mask, it's like, it's there is a process of working through that. It's not like, oh, I just see that you're a gumball guy and now I'm over it. There's a process in doing that. And so that's what happens with this online dating. You know, you start talking to people and you get excited, and then you're human. You have emotions. These things happen. And so what we cannot do, what I will tell you, if you and I work together as a one-on-one client, that in that situation, you cannot beat yourself up, because that just makes you feel worse about yourself, and it just makes the process of healing and getting stronger and moving forward take even longer. So you have to just say, okay, I made a mistake. I got caught up in this guy for a bit, but as you learn this content, it's just going to take you way less time. Like one person, it took me about 3 weeks, and I wasn't around them every day for 3 weeks. But as I was around them, about 3 weeks, it was like, oh, now I see it. And at first I didn't want to, but once I did, it was like, it was really sad. You know, it's like, and that's also just the hard part about this, is that it's sad to see somebody that you had high hopes for become in the category of, okay, it feels like another failure. And that's, it's tough. So the point of this is, I'm just saying to you that if you do online dating, I'm not telling you not to do it, but I'm just kind of making you aware of how taxing it is on you, and that taking breaks is okay. Pay a little extra money to go month to month. Don't be afraid to hide your profile. If you're energetically exhausted, don't try to push through it. That's what I did, and I just burned myself out. So we have to really respect our energy and our time, and I think that this dating profile in the background, even though it isn't the end all be all, it kind of holds a big promise. Like, maybe you'll meet somebody. Don't close that, because that could be the one way you meet the right guy. I love the phrase, what is for you will not pass you. What is for you will not pass you. You will get what is yours, and you have to have faith in that. And the journey has been long for me, but for me, I know that I am like the person delivering this kind of message. And I know that God's taking me through this road so that I can teach from a place that I get it. I've been there. I am there. And so this isn't just me telling you, though. This is a community where we all pull each other, because you guys inspire me too. I'm not just this person sitting on the top of the pyramid and knowing everything. I'm right there with you in the middle, in the thick of it. And sometimes it's you that inspires me. Sometimes someone posts something in our private Facebook group, and it's what I needed to hear that day, because I'm human just like you. And this is hard. It is not easy, because it's our heart, and our heart is so, it's so tender and so sensitive. And so I wanted to just give you this message that I personally have decided that this is not my avenue, and that I'm going to, I was going to finish like Sam. I'm going to explore art. I want to explore pottery. And then just other things around the city. Like there are classes about how to pair certain cheese with wine. You know, it might even be just an hour long, but it's something that I don't think about on a regular basis, but it's just something interesting. And all of a sudden you're gathering all these unique experiences. And even in the smallest communities, there's always something going on. Or you may have to drive 30 minutes to go to a festival, even if it's a food festival, try different foods, or go to, I was going to say a parade, but I hate parades. It's like the worst thing you can say is, let's go to a parade. Like, oh my gosh, especially the Puerto Rican Day Parade in New York City. Oh my gosh. I went on a date with a Puerto Rican guy right after going to that parade. And he was like, I was like, dude, your freaking parade. What is with the air horns? And he like died laughing for like an hour because I don't know if you're Puerto Rican, what is your fascination with the air horn? Because like everyone in the parade all the way down Fifth Avenue just blows air horns randomly. And you're standing there like, I'm going to kill you if you do that air horn one more time. Like, why? Why is this necessary? I don't understand. There's super annoying noises throughout the whole thing. And he was just dying laughing. Apparently it's a Puerto Rican thing. But yeah, any parade, I don't care what it is. I don't care what the cause. I'm happy about it and good for you. But I just don't, I floats just going by and bands and it's like, ugh, I don't want to go. So if it's your thing, go to the parade. I'm not going to be there. But just like whatever is even an inkling of, I don't know, maybe a concert, different kinds of music, like classical music, or here in the city, there'll just be one person playing a violin and you can just sit and read a book and just be in that environment. And as you have this collection of experiences, then you have interesting things to talk about, not even just on dates, but when you meet people in your job, or when you meet, like when I meet these girls tonight, that there are experiences that we have that we can talk about that aren't just, I'm going to work and I'm going home, because that can tend to get us into a stagnant place where we just feel like nothing's going on in our life. So I want you to feel like you have something like this. It's so funny how I talk about this to you, but Gumball Love is my passion. It's my hustle. It's like, this is what gives me purpose. This is where I feel like I'm supposed to be doing for a huge part of my life's purpose. So I have a full-time job, but in my spare time, I'm an entrepreneur, building this business, building this network, this mission, so that more and more women can be helped. And so, but in addition to that, there are other things I can do. Like, so I do things on social media, but then I'm also doing this podcast, and I'm looking at who we can interview on this podcast that can add a little bit more dimension. I have tons of ideas that I'll be bringing soon. So, but I've slowed down in what I've been delivering with content, because it also started to feel like the same thing over and over again. I wasn't connecting to it anymore, and I needed to kind of figure out what I needed to do. And part of my disconnection was that the online dating was just taking too much of my creative energy, and I needed to manage it. But I did it long enough to feel like I'm walking away, because I know that dating pool on those websites is not where the winners are. There might be a handful of winners, but that's not where they're hanging out. It's kind of like going to the bar to find a date. Yeah, they're I've gone to a bar, you've gone to the bar. You're a winner, you're not hanging out at the bar all the time. But it's not the place to hang out, to run into you on a regular basis, right? If you said, "Hey, how can you run into Melissa?" It would be here at my work or at the dance studio. That would be where you would run into me. But you're not going to pick a bar in New York that I would go to occasionally and take a chance of running into me there. So that's what I'm saying. Like, the odds of running into a really high quality guy online dating it's like the odds are not in your favor. So if that's the case, then why gamble there? Unless you really feel energetically like, no, I feel like I want to try this, then absolutely do it, because, it's not that big of a deal. But I think that now that you've heard this, you're going to look at it differently, and you're going to hopefully just be more aware, okay, this is what Melissa said. I feel like I'm getting drained. I feel like my energy, I feel so grossed out. Like, I don't want to see these messages anymore. That's really where I feel like it's so important that we just don't, I don't like being at the mercy of just anybody being able to say anything to me at any time. And all of a sudden I'm forced to read it. That's like unnerving when you work really hard to protect your energy, put positive things in your life, podcasts, books, people, jobs, being productive, being successful. And then all these people at random stages and levels and frequencies can just communicate with you. It's really kind of irresponsible. And I wish I could say, yeah, there's this other website and it's all these high level people, but I don't know of that website. And so for now, I'm leaving. I don't foresee myself coming back to online dating. But what I do see myself doing is being more active in the community, focusing more on volunteering, and also just focusing on the kinds of people that I really want to be around, and just getting myself to those types of events. And I know that, one, I've been doing that since I moved to New York, and all of my friends are that I see on a very regular basis, with the exception of a handful from my, childhood and family, are all people I've met within the last 4 years, 4.5, going on 5 years in New York now. Someone messaged me and they're like, Melissa, all my friends are gumballs. Do I just have to make new friends? And I was like, yeah. And it seems like, really, I have to make all new friends? And I don't want to say it's easy, but it's not that hard. If you really start focusing on where you want to go and what you want to do, and you go to like some seminars and you start meeting people I went to like some success seminars and goal setting, and like all of a sudden I met people that were really focused on building their business and setting goals for their life. And they were in the same mindset I was, and I'm still friends with them today. One of them is like my very best friend. And so you just never know when you're going to meet those kinds of people. And then you start meeting their friends. And it just the event I'm going to tonight was, I went to a business networking event and I met one person there who became my personal friend. And now she's introducing me to 4 other women tonight. But I met her like a year and a half ago, and she and I were just friends, but now I'm going to be connected to even more people. And so I just look at all the wonderful people that are in my life, but it was because I made a choice to start focusing on where I was spending my time, with what kinds of people, what were they talking about, what were they doing, what were they saying, and what were their lives like, and then making decisions on cutting some of those people out. I also met some people at those conferences that I thought were great, and I ended up having to cut them out because they weren't who they said they were. So it's not like you go to a conference and everyone's wonderful and, butterflies are landing on their shoulders. You're still going to have to, they're still human beings, and some of these people go to the conference and they're fake, and you figure that out, and it sucks. It really sucked a couple of times, but I got so confident about eliminating those people because I know how important it is. And as I had done it a few times and saw how quickly my energy came back up, the decisions became easier and easier. It was like, okay, this person is causing much more negative than positive. And so it's time to make a decision to remove them from my life. And these are not easy decisions, and you don't have to make them quickly. But as you see someone that really isn't contributing, that's starting to suck the life out of you, that's starting to, really, if they're affecting other areas of your life, they're affecting your finances, if they're affecting your work, they're affecting your mood, they're affecting other relationships, that's when you can see, this is somebody you really need to evaluate or significantly reduce the amount of time that you spend around them. So that's what I wanted to share with you about online dating, and just give you a more well-rounded view of it. Like, this is your time during the day, during the night, and as you are trying to build your own beautiful life, that you want to be really careful of the energy and the time we allow just anybody and everybody to have access. So it's really about access, it's about energy, and it's about respecting ourselves. And I feel like when we allow it to go on too long, it beats us up a little bit. And then you're kind of wounded. And then it becomes even harder to resist or get out of because you're in a weakened state. And so that's what's unexpected, because you, like right now, I can feel like I'm tired, and I have this, it gives me this like bleh, negative feeling. It's like, oh, these guys are just so gross. But that's even too much emotion for random dudes I will never meet. Like, they shouldn't be in my head that much. But it got to that point because there were just too many all at one time. And every time it became like a habit, checking like Instagram or Facebook. I was like, oh, I'll check Match.com. I'll check Inner Circle. I'll check Elite Singles. Because you get these messages and people are emailing, and no more. That, for me, is not productive. And so this is me telling you how I manage getting back to myself, getting my energy back, and making the best decisions for me. So I hope this is helpful. I posted this in our private Facebook group, and the response just from me saying I'm done with online dating forever is struck a chord that I didn't really expect. But I know that a lot of you have been really discouraged, and it kind of feels like, am I just supposed to do this? Is this just like something I have to do? And the answer is no. You can say, I'm not going to do this. This is not the avenue I'm going to choose. And then you can start really mapping out, what kinds of people do I want to meet? What is the life that I want to have? And I can tell you, little by little, you start to create that life. I mean, I was in the Midwest in a condo with my mom as my neighbor and a handful of friends that I just didn't relate to. I felt like a fish out of water. I felt like I didn't belong. But I was like, oh, I have a Jeep. I have this great condo. I had 2 dogs. I have family all around me. I should be happy. But the life didn't fit me. And so I would sit there and think, what am I going to do? Where do I want to be? And then the idea of New York was just always there. And I just finally decided to really go after it and get serious about it. And as that decision became more serious, so many other things followed. And I've shared on Instagram and many different times how the first step was just what was the first thing? Oh, a coffee mug, a New York City coffee mug that I bought in New York on a business trip because I wanted to live here. Then I bought artwork, and then I was seeing it on my walls and just thinking about it. And then I moved to an apartment that was in an area that seemed and felt like New York, just to give me that. It was a walking neighborhood in Nebraska where you could walk out of your apartment, walk to this. It was just like one street, but it kind of had an upscale feel, and there were restaurants and an ice cream place, but everybody walked on foot that lived in the neighborhood. It's the only neighborhood that nobody drove their car. So what I'm saying is I started getting myself in the mindset of where I wanted to be. And eventually I got relocated here because I kept talking about it to my bosses at my company. I want to live in New York. I want to be relocated. And they kind of started to realize that if they didn't put me here, I was going anyway with another company. So they finally forked out the cash and got me here. And they didn't relocate anyone. I was the only person they relocated. Unless it was some high-level executive. But nobody at my level of position was ever getting relocated like that. It was absolutely unheard of. But I had my mindset on it. And so sometimes it's just a matter of just sitting and thinking, like, what am I going to do? And I'm doing that exact thing because I'm like, okay, I have a lot in my life and it's very full, but you get used to things. So now it's time to make some changes again and add some more dimension, add something different, and feel the changes in the wind shift and then bring in something new. And I don't know what that's going to be, but it's sort of exciting. And I always use that phrase, let the spirit of adventure set the tone. I don't know who said that, but I love it. Let the spirit of adventure. Whenever I feel like, oh, I'm single and I don't want to be single anymore. Like, you get that feeling like you're so frustrated, then talk to your married friends that are bored out of their mind and they're not happy. It's like married people, most of them aren't very happy, or they're happy, but they're not like, oh my God, I'm just so elated. I mean, it's not like it's a mecca over there. It's still Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And so you kind of you level set yourself and then think about, I'm single. Okay, I can do way more than I could if I was in a relationship. So what can I do to take advantage of this time? And if you've been taking advantage of that time for a long time, it's just the way it's supposed to be, because forcing the wrong relationship is not the answer. So you might as well embrace it and say, how can I make this an adventure? I just saw somebody who used a bad razor and got some skin eating disease and lost their leg. And I'm like, wow. Sometimes we're complaining about dating and being single, and there are people in just extreme situations all over the world that are unsafe, and they're in refugee camps, and people are dying. They're afraid of bombings. It's like we are extremely blessed to just be like, I just want to meet Mr. Right. It's like, okay, it's nice to meet Mr. Right, but if you never do, you can still have a really great life. So the likelihood that you never meet somebody is very low. You're going to meet somebody, but I want you to get into the mindset of not necessarily meeting somebody, but how can I give my life more dimension and take myself to a higher level and then get around those kinds of people and start networking in that way. And it's okay to think about meeting somebody at those events. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't recommend going just with the idea of meeting somebody. I want you to go somewhere where you're going to enjoy the lecture, or if somebody writes a book and you go to a book signings are really actually exciting. It's cool to see the author there and get your book signed, and you're with people that also like that author. And so there's this buzz, and then you can kind of chat. And it's like, even if you're talking to a grandma that's, 150 years old, you still both like that author. And it's just a uplifting. You walk away from those experiences, your energy is lifted. And when your energy is lifted, you are attracted to other people in that frequency. And so then it just becomes a matter of time before you meet the person that you're supposed to be with forever. And I just believe that it is destiny. And if it hasn't happened for me. So if it hasn't happened for you, it's just not our time yet. And so sometimes that's easier to take than others, but I'm on the journey with you. I'm holding your hand. I'm here with you all the way. And when I meet that person, hopefully he'll do podcasts, and then we can talk about how we met and where we were. And then you can hear a guy's perspective. I would love it if I could meet somebody that was open to that. But if not, whatever happens, we'll figure out the journey together, and I will be here for you the whole way through. So I hope this helped you. Let me know if you had any aha moments or anything that really struck a chord with you. I'd love to hear from you, melissa@gumballlove.com, or you can make a comment in my most recent Instagram post. Just let me know you listened to the podcast, and please hit subscribe and share it with a friend, because we're really trying to grow this message and get this out to as many women as possible so that we can alleviate this pressure. I really feel like this message is like the drink of water, the sigh of relief, and it's just not out there. It's just, everybody's telling us how to play the game. Everybody's telling us, don't do this or you'll lose his attention. And it's just garbage. There's so much garbage out there. And I want us to remember that happily married people met each other being authentically themselves. There is no mystery. There is no secret. It's just two people that know how to build authentic relationships and communicate in healthy ways and be consistent and stay dedicated. Even when they don't feel like it, they do it anyway because they are committed. And that's the difference between people that stay married and stay loyal and the people that cheat because they aren't committed, even though because the feeling isn't there. And that's what I want us to focus on and focus on meeting quality. And that's where with online dating, it's just not enough quality. There's not enough quality choices. It's like 99% low quality. So for that 1%, I don't know how much time I would have to spend trying to find that 1%. But even if I think I can find it on a profile, I still have to interact with that person because they can write a nice profile, but they still may be a bad person. And so just even that due diligence in addition makes things too time consuming where it could be spent somewhere else. And you could be in a very high quality, you can put yourself in a room where everybody is high quality. Everybody is like-minded. Go somewhere where you're in the same political affiliation. Go somewhere where you are supporting the same foundation or a cause, or for animals, or for children, or for literacy, or for autism, or you know what I mean? Like something that makes you passionate. You get in a room with all those same kinds of people. It's really amazing the things that can bond you together. So hopefully this gives you some hope and some new ideas and just inspire to be meeting in real life. We really talked about this at Cara Leiba's book launch, how all of us girls just meeting together and seeing each other face to face, you could see the fatigue of the virtual world and how lonely people feel, and how just meeting in person and feeling that connection and that love for each other, because we all have a love for Cara. And none of us knew each other prior. I think I only knew 2 people there. Otherwise, it was all new faces. And so, but we all knew Cara and we all love her content. And we just bonded immediately over our common interests. It was just so easy. It was like, hey, and we gave each other hugs because we knew what kind of people we were because we know Cara. And so how cool is that? You know what I mean? So it's like, even when you're just going to go meet women, when you're like-minded, it's such a positive and warm experience, and you just never know who they know. You know, like these people have brothers and uncles, and you know, like you just never know like who they're going to connect you to, and that could be the way you meet the person that you marry. And I feel like we really need to, although online dating is one resource, I think we need to be thinking about the more organic process much more. And maybe it's time to go back the other way for a while, because I feel like the online version has gotten so out of control and so overgrown with weeds that it's time for a new plan. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you take on this new plan. I'm excited. Maybe we can quit online dating together, and we'll set foot on this new journey, and we'll help each other along the way. So I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Have a great day.